Okay then, right. Well Lewis, you can come in a wee bit. You got all that there, Lewis? Just a wee look round about that. Okay. This is Lewis, my son that's on the camera for me here. Okay. Right, okay. So we've taken those 7 steps and I've now produced this. It was going to be too clumsy for me right as I go, and I wasn't going to be sure I'd be able to fit it all in. So here it is. So let's show the main steps again to you very quickly. One was you and your bike, which we mentioned. There it is, Lewis. You and your bike, we've got that as green. I've also got green right round the outside here of this next stage that I'm going to explain, which is a system of motorcycle control, which I'm going to explain to you in a moment. And that's really covering steps 2 to 6, which I'm going to break down for you. And then finally, we've got step 7. Now, this is John Mac's version of it. If you read the police Roadcraft manual, it will be slightly different, but the ideas are all there, alright? And that's just the way that over the years I've been able to help my students to understand the system of motorcycle control and to understand roadcraft. So basically we're going to go through all of this now, and we're going to end up explaining this bit here, motorcycle roadcraft. And you've probably heard people talk about motorcycle roadcraft, or maybe the police system of motorcycle riding. Well, let's break it down for you. So I think everybody's happy with you and your bike. The steps 2 to 6 now, let's explain to them. What you have here is the system of motorcycle riding. Now that's very similar to mirror sig manoeuvre on a car, where you were taught check your mirrors, be aware of what's happening behind you, give a signal if it's going to be necessary. This of course dealing with hazards, could be junctions, crossroads, roundabouts, traffic light could be bent. So your first job was to look ahead, assess the hazard, check your mirrors, what's happening behind you, be aware of the position, speed of following traffic, give a signal if it's going to be necessary for a change in direction. And then the manoeuvre part was broken down into position, speed and look. Position, speed, look. This system's very similar. This is the, if you think of the MSN PSL as being secondary school, we could think of this as being university. It's advanced. This is the next stage on. I here is all about gathering information. P is all about being in the right position. S, the right speed. G, being in the right gear. This is us now passing through the hazard. And then A, once we've cleared the hazard, we can accelerate back up to appropriate speed again. Now you might have noticed here that I've got a green box right round outside of everything here. The reason for that is if you and your bike is not right, something wrong with your bike or something wrong with you, it doesn't matter what happens inside here, it's just not going to be right. You're not going to be able to execute the riding plan correctly. If there's problems with your bike, your tyres, your brakes, your suspension, what's inside here is not going to work. Same as if you're not in the right place, you're not going to process information correctly, you're not going to gather the information correctly, you're not going to operate the controls on the bike correctly. So that's why I've got the green here right round everything, encompassing it. You might have noticed here that I is on its own, P's got a circle around it, S, G and A. Why is that? Well, because when you gather information, when you see a hazard ahead of you, let's talk about the bend for example, since that's what we're dealing with. When you see the bend up ahead, you're going to gather information about that bend, and that information, which we're going to break down in a moment, is going to allow you to determine the best possible position to be in. And also, the best speed, most appropriate speed, so best position. I like to think of that as green, by the way. Green is, you're in the right position. Amber, could have been better. Red, completely wrong position, either too far to the left or too far to the right. Speed, I like to think of that as green as well, colour coded. Green, you're in the right speed. Now we can have plus or minus a few miles an hour either side of it and still be within green. I think you understand that, it's not that precise. Amber is, you were close to being at the appropriate speed, but you were either still a bit fast or a bit slow. And red, completely wrong, far too fast or far too slow. And that's why it's speed and not slow, because in some situations you might need to actually accelerate to get out of trouble. G, gear, that's about being in the right gear. Now before you approach the hazard, always be in the correct gear before you approach the hazard. And then A, once you've passed through the hazard, accelerate. Now you might be wondering what these little subsections are, 1, 2 and 3. 1, well I've put down here, as you see down the bottom corner here, consider a signal. So once you've gathered information, before you make the positional change to deal with the hazard, let's say it's a right hand bend and you're now going to position more towards the left, before making the positional change you would consider maybe having to give a signal. Now nobody's going to signal turning left or right at a bend, so why would I have to consider a signal? Well, let's suppose you were dealing with a junction and your information now, you're turning right at the junction and you need to move over to the right, then you're going to consider giving a signal before you move over to the right, aren't you? The next one here, 2, before you make a speed change, 2 is check your mirrors. Why is that? Well, before you slow down or accelerate, you need to be aware of the position and speed of following traffic and how your actions might affect their actions. So if you're going to slow down, you need to know what's behind you. Same as if you're going to accelerate, you need to know if somebody's overtaking you, or you might need to accelerate quicker. So that's why we've got consider in here, because you might need to consider these. You'll notice here between the, when you've passed through the hazard, as you're going to the hazard here, sorry, as you're going into the hazard after the gear, I really should draw it kind of in the middle here. 3, it's consider flashing your horn, or beeping your horn or flashing your lights. In other words, consider giving a warning of your presence. Let's give an example of that one. Uncontrolled crossroads, approaching uncontrolled crossroads, or maybe going through country roads, a crossroads, you might decide to give a short, sharp blast on your horn as you approach to warn other people of your presence. Alright, so there's the system broken down. Now you might wonder why I's not got a box around it. Well, because when you get information and then you set up the appropriate position, speed and gear, as you get closer to the hazard, you might get information updates. For example, I might see in the distance there's a white van. This should be town. Let's give it a town example. And as I get closer to the van, I now see that it's not just a van, it's an ice cream van. And the information update now, I think, oh, extra warning here. Maybe need to position even further over, might need to go even slower. And then I notice that there's actually 2 kids at the side of the ice cream van, and they're now walk around the front of the ice cream van. Well, all this information is now telling me that I need to reconsider my position and my speed again. So that's why I's left to float, because you're going to get continuous information updates and you need to be able to adapt and adjust your position. It's a flexible system. And whilst you go through each part of the system, that doesn't mean to say that you need to apply each part of the system. You might already be in the right position, for example. You might already be at the right speed, but you consider each part of the system. Now, by doing this, what it's going to do is it's going to enable you to approach each hazard systematically with a system of riding. So I think you can see here, you're gathering this information, okay? You're going to get yourself in the appropriate position for the bend. Let's take the bend as a hazard. Appropriate position, the appropriate speed, in the correct gear before you enter the bend, and then, as I say, we're going to then, once we've passed through it, look to accelerate out of the bend. Now I'm going to break each one of these down to you in another video, because I don't want the videos to be too long. So hopefully just give you short snaps of information here. Alright, so you'll see then that we're going to break down information a bit further in the next video now. I'm going to break this one down, information. We're going to break down here position. We're going to break that one down a bit further. We're going to break down the speed, as you can see, a bit further in the next video. We're going to break down gears. We're going to break gears down further in the next video. And 6, you'll see there's not an awful lot there in the acceleration phase. And then, of course, finish off with awareness and anticipation. Now, this bit at the very end here, which is going to finish off my video just now at this stage here, is that when you've got yourself and your bike right, when you've applied the system of motorcycle riding, and don't forget, as you ride along a road, you're going to have lots of IPSGAs in your head, all at different stages. So I might have I've got an IPSGA working for the parked car at the side of the road. I've got an IPSGA working already for me for the pedestrian. It looks like they're about to cross the pedestrian crossing. And beyond that, there might be another hazard beyond that I'm already beginning to identify. Ambulance at the side of the road or something with the lights flashing. So I've got lots of different hazards I'm seeing all at different stages, and I'm making sure that the system that I'm applying enables me to be in the right position and the right speed at all times. Now I mentioned here a colour coding system that I use for the position. I use the same colour coding position, the same kind of traffic light sequence for speed as well. So for me, for example, when somebody's green, that's a good speed. Appropriate speed, amber, they were quite close to it, red, completely wrong, either, as I say, too fast, too slow. So I always apply this kind of colour light system to position and to speed, always trying to be in the green zone and the green speed. So the right position and the right speed. And the system is going to enable us to be able to do that. And that's, as I say there, actually passing through the hazard. So you've gathered your information, your position, your speed, appropriate gear, and that's you now arriving at the hazard. Alright? So as you arrive at every hazard in a systematic, structured way. You don't want to just arrive at the hazard, arrive at the bend, for example, and then everything's just a panic. You're going to have been gathering information about that bend all the way towards that bend. You're going to have made sure that you're in the appropriate position as you approach that bend. You're going to make sure you're in the appropriate speed as you approach that bend. And then you're going to make sure you're in the appropriate gear as you approach that bend. So when you start to lift and extend your vision, look further forward, gathering this information, which I'm going to talk about more in the next one, and you start putting these systems in place, each part of the system, in place like this, you're going to arrive at the hazard well prepared. Alright, and that's it. Now that's been about 10 minutes and I don't want my videos to be any longer than 10 minutes. So on the next video we'll break that down still further for you, and we'll, as I say, eventually get to this motorcycle roadcraft. So that's that video finished. Thank you very much.